The diner was alive with chatter, forks clinking against plates, the smell of bacon and fresh coffee filling the air. At the corner booth sat Emily, a young girl with braces on her legs and a bright smile that could light up the whole room. She was used to stares, but she never let them dim her spirit. Today, she was just excited to enjoy a milkshake after school, her notebook open in front of her as she doodled happily. But peace doesn't last long when wicked hearts are nearby. A group of teenage bullies swaggered in, loud and careless, their laughter bouncing off the tiled walls. They noticed Emily instantly. One nudged the other, smirking, and soon all eyes in their group were locked on her. They didn't see her courage. They didn't see her joy. They only saw her braces, her limp, and her vulnerability. They strutted over like predators circling prey. Hey, what's wrong with your legs? Can you even walk straight? One sneered, his voice sharp enough to slice through the diner's cheerful atmosphere. His friends cackled, the sound ugly and cruel. Emily froze, her milkshake straw trembling between her fingers. She tried to look down, hoping they would get bored and walk away. But wickedness never walks away, it feeds on silence. Another leaned closer, his face twisted with mockery. Bet you can't even stand without those crutches. You're pathetic. The diner fell uncomfortably quiet. Some customers turned away, unwilling to step in. The waitress bit her lip, clearly torn but too afraid to act. And then it happened. One bully slapped Emily's milkshake right out of her hand, the glass shattering on the floor. Oops, he smirked, his friends laughing louder. Emily's eyes welled with tears. She thought this was the worst moment of her day. She didn't know. It was only the beginning. The diner floor was sticky with spilled milkshake, glass shards glittering like tiny knives. Emily's hands shook as she reached for her crutches, but before she could move, the bullies blocked her path. Their laughter had turned meaner, sharper, more venomous. Look at this, one boy sneered, pointing at her dark skin. Not only can't she walk right, but she thinks she can sit here like the rest of us. This diner isn't for people like you. The words hit like a slap. Emily's chest tightened, not from the braces on her legs, but from the ugliness now spilling out of their mouths. One of the girls in the group leaned against the booth, smirking cruelly. Maybe she should crawl back where she came from. That's probably how they all move anyway. Her friends howled with laughter. The waitress gasped, muttering, "That's enough," but her voice lacked power. She looked around at the other customers, hoping someone, anyone, would step in. But the silence in the diner was deafening. Another boy leaned in, his breath hot and vile. Tell me, do those legs even work? Or are they broken just like your kind? He tapped her brace with his shoe, making her flinch. The metal clinked. His friends erupted in more laughter, feeding on each other's cruelty. Emily clenched her fists, fighting back tears. She wanted to scream, to stand tall, to prove them wrong. But they crowded her, mocking her both for her disability and her race, twisting her existence into a joke. And then, the worst humiliation yet. One of them poured water from his glass onto her open notebook, smearing her doodles into black streaks. There, he said. Now it looks as messy as you. The diner was no longer just a place to eat, it had become a stage for wickedness. But what the bullies didn't know was this. Emily's silence wasn't weakness. It was the calm before the storm. The diner door creaked open with a low groan, but the bullies were too busy laughing at their own cruelty to notice. Emily sat frozen in the booth, her notebook dripping, her spirit trembling. She could feel the sting of their words replaying in her head, cutting deeper than the bruise on her wrist. Then, boots. Heavy, deliberate, the kind of footsteps that made the tiled floor tremble, the kind of sound that silenced a room. Four men walked in, broad shoulders filling the doorway like a wall. Leather vests, chains that clinked, tattoos inked deep into skin, weathered by the road. Their presence was loud, even though they hadn't spoken a word yet. Every customer's head turned. The bullies glanced up, smirking nervously. What is this? A costume party? One of them whispered, trying to hold on to his bravado. But the lead biker, a towering figure with a gray beard and piercing eyes, said nothing at first. He just stared at Emily. His gaze softened when he saw her wet notebook, the water dripping onto the floor, her crutches tipped over at her side. Then his eyes shifted to the group of teens and hardened into steel. Which one of you thought it was funny? His voice was low, gravelly, like thunder waiting to strike. The teens exchanged glances. One boy laughed awkwardly, pointing at Emily. She's the problem. always playing the victim. We were just joking. The biker stepped closer, boots echoing. He leaned down, his shadow swallowing the boy's smug grin. Joking? Tell me, son, where's the punchline in humiliating a black girl with braces on her legs? The diner went silent, the kind of silence that suffocates. The bully's confidence wavered. For the first time that night, Emily wasn't the one who felt small. The diner held its breath. The bullies, once so loud, now stood cornered in their own shame. The lead biker's stare was unrelenting, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. You thought humiliating a disabled black girl made you strong? He leaned closer, his shadow swallowing the boy's face. All I see is weakness. The boy stammered. We didn't mean? The biker's laugh was cold. You meant every word. And now you're going to live with the fact that everyone in this room saw you for what you really are cowards. The woman biker set Emily's crutches gently beside her, then turned to the teens with fire in her eyes. Look at her, she snapped. She's got more courage in one step than all of you put together. Customers began to clap, louder this time. A few even stood, shouting, That's right! The bullies' faces burned red as the sound filled the diner, drowning their arrogance. Their own community, the people they wanted to impress, had turned against them. The gray bearded biker delivered the final blow. His voice was low, deadly calm. Next time you get the urge to mock someone for their skin, their body, or their life, you'll remember this night, and you'll remember me. The bullies couldn't escape fast enough, tripping over each other as they scrambled out the door. The applause followed them into the night. Emily sat taller now, shoulders back, dignity restored. She whispered, Thank you, but the bikers only nodded, as if to say, Justice is just what we do. Golden Stories outro. And that, my friends, is how cruelty collapses under its own weight. You're watching Golden Stories, where we turn humiliation into lessons and expose wickedness for what it is. If you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe, because it's always powerful here. Until next time, stay golden.